beautiful day here in the Northeast, and it is gorgeous out. It is beautiful. It's sunny. We had rainstorms last night. I was kind of happy. My plants needed it, but it's beautiful out. It's a little humid though, just a little bit. You could tell my hair is starting to curl a little bit, but that's okay. That is okay. I'll take it. I'll take it. So I just want to say good morning to a few people, and then we're going to do our this or that question. And our message for today is secluded with friends. And sometimes, again, we miss these things because we're going so fast when we're reading scripture, and it's so cool when you start to see that part of Jesus, that part of his humanity, and also that part of his spirit, right? Because God has always wanted family. He's always wanted relationship. So it's really cool when you get to read that in scripture because it confirms, God's heart and what we see and what we experience. So I just want to say good morning to everybody. Good morning, Sunny, Marilyn, Susan, Lisa, Gert, Sherry, Lori, Rose, and Sue. Good morning. Good morning. So we're just going to be reading in just a minute. Again, we are reading John chapter 11. That's what we're up to. Good morning, Heidi. So here is the this or that question. Good morning, Dorothy. What would you rather eat? Okay, you ready? You ready? What would you rather eat? Cookie batter or brownie batter? So let me ask that question one more time. What would you rather eat? Cookie batter or brownie batter? So I know, tough. It's tough, especially for women. It's tough because we like both. But if you had to choose one, which one would you choose? All right, so let's start reading. We're going to start with so let's start with verse 49. I know that we read this yesterday, but it is good to read it again so that you get the context of it. It says, "Now Caiaphas, the high priest that year, spoke up and said, 'You don't understand a thing. Don't you realize we'd be much better off if this one man were to die for the people than the whole nation to perish?' And this prophecy that Jesus was destined to die for the Jewish people didn't come from Caiaphas himself, but he was moved by God to prophesy as the chief priest. And Jesus' death would not be for the Jewish people only, but to gather together God's children scattered around the world to unite them as one. So from that day on, the Jewish leaders, were committed to killing Jesus. For this reason, Jesus no longer went out in public among the Jews, but he went into the wilderness to a village called Ephraim, where he secluded himself with the disciples." So Jesus, after they said, "Okay, we're going to come get you, we're going to kill you," Jesus secluded himself. And think about it. I don't know about you, but I think that sometimes we don't stop to think that Jesus knew. He knew that he was going to die. And we know that he knew that he was going to die because if you go forward a few chapters, you see him in the Garden of Gethsemane. And he obviously knows what was going to happen because it said that he started to sweat so profusely that there were drops of blood that came out. And we'll go into the details of that once we reach that chapter. But he knew what was coming. He knew what the disciples were going to go through as they saw him being tortured. He knew the hardship that they were going to go through. He didn't only think of himself, but he also thought of the people that loved him the most, his best friends, the people that were going to be hanging out with him, that were hanging out with him for the past 3.5 years. He was thinking of others, and he took the time. And I wish that it kind of like jumps off the page. I wish I had studied a little bit more about the village of Ephraim, and maybe I'll do that tonight and give you some background. But he actually took the time to hang out with his closest friends. He secluded himself. Now we've been in a year where we have secluded ourselves not with our friends. We've secluded ourselves either by ourselves or with families or with roommates, or husbands and wives, or, whoever it is that you live with. But in this case, Jesus chose to seclude himself. And I got to tell you, I love when we have that girl time. I love when we're able to say, hey, let's get away for a weekend. As a matter of fact, I love going away to conferences and to retreats with my inner circle of friends, because it's during that time where we are secluded, where we are together, that there are such deep, deep conversations, and there's also the opportunity for connections. And we kind of don't see that. We don't focus on that at all. As a matter of fact, we don't understand the precious treasure, the gem that we have in different people, and how important it is for us to connect on deeper levels. As a matter of fact, there are times that we quite intentionally will take time out to be with family or girlfriends that are considered family, just to like unplug from the outside world so that we could connect on a deeper level. And I believe truly that that was what Jesus was doing. He understood, he knew that he was going to leave the earth. So think about it this way. Think about how there are times where, I don't know if you've been through it, I did, where you knew that you had a good friend or a best friend that has a diagnosis that is terminal. And your relationship with that person changes because you know that you have a limited time period with them because they're going to leave. So that person, especially that person, they start to look at relationships a little differently, because they say, you know what, I only have 6 months, I only have a year. And so they start to plan out different activities and events and outings and just intentional time to spend with you, because they know they're going to leave the earth very soon. So they're very intentional. And I believe that Jesus at this time was extremely intentional with his disciples. He was intentional. He said, let me take this time to be alone with them, to be secluded with them. Remember that everywhere he went, he was interrupted. He was constantly being approached by different people with different types of needs. And it says in scripture that he went about doing good. He was healing the sick. He was delivering the captive. He was doing all sorts of things all of the time. So there were like so many different people that were constantly pulling at him, that were constantly interrupting him, that would constantly want his attention. But here he was. He knew that his time was limited. So he became intentional. And he said, let me spend some time alone with my disciples. Let me get secluded with them so that there are no outside interruptions. I honestly wish that one of the disciples had given us a bit more of insight, a bit more of update, a bit more of story of what happened during that time that Jesus was secluded with them? What did he talk to them about? Did he warn them again about what was coming, or did he just sit down and just have conversation with them? Did he become a listener during that time? Because remember, Jesus did a lot of talking, a lot of communicating during that time. Did he listen more, or did he really pour out his heart? I know that, when my girlfriend had a limited amount of time, she became very raw, and she would tell me things that normally we wouldn't hear, or talk about. We talked about some really, really tough topics. We talked about everything and anything under the sun. But she also was quite intentional in letting me know how she felt about me, what she thought about me. She brought up memories that I had forgotten that we had made together. And she would remember the time when. And I imagine that Jesus probably even did the same thing, that he said, remember the time I spoke to you about this, this, and that. It's important that you understand this. Maybe he brought to memory certain things that he wanted them to remember during the time that he passed, that they could look back into that moment. It's the special moments, those really, really special times, those moments where you look back after you have lost someone. Maybe he was intentional, and he wanted them to remember, so that it would carry them through the time that he passed and then came back and resurrected. Maybe he just told them how much he loved them. Maybe he loved on them. Maybe it was just a hangout time for them just to reconnect and just be alone and hang out together. We will never, never know. But this, if we're reading scripture really, really fast, we would miss this. We would actually miss this. It would just be like, whew, right over our head. Okay, he went and he secluded himself, and we would just keep on reading about the Pharisees and how they wanted to kill him. And we would miss that nugget that Jesus was extremely relational, that he felt his disciples were so important that he secluded them for a little bit, that he felt that it was so important that he made sure that he was intentional and connected with them. I think that is so beautiful. I think it's so beautiful how Jesus took that time, that he felt that it was so important for him to stop his busy schedule. Jesus stopped his busy schedule and said, you know what? I'm going to take time with my disciples, and I'm just going to love on them, and I'm just going to connect with them, because I know that my time is short and my time is limited. Isn't that beautiful? I don't know about you, but I think that is something that is so beautiful. It's such a beautiful example even for us. Sometimes we get so busy that we forget, or we lose track of time, and we forget how to connect with our girlfriends, how to connect with people that we love, how to be intentional, how to take the time to do something fun with those who are super important to us. So if Jesus did it, and he is supposed to be our example, we should be actually doing the exact same. We should be taking the time to seclude ourselves, to date our husbands, to date our wives, to go away. I like going away with my husband. I think it's so much fun. We have a lot of fun, and we tend to totally unplug. And I think it's so healthy to do that. And I recommend it for any couple. I don't care how long you've been married. It is so important for you to get away alone, a few times a year, not just once a year. Have a long weekend. Have a night over, away in a hotel if you can't do a week or a weekend. but do something so that you're away from the kids and you're dating each other. That is so incredibly important. So Jesus secluded himself and connected with his disciples. Surely we can do the same with those people that we love. I hope that this talked to you today, that it blessed you. So the question for today, or this or that question, was what would you rather eat? Cookie batter or brownie batter? And you have to pick one, not say both. So let's check, and let's also say good morning to those who joined after I started. So here we go. Good morning, Marina. Thank you. Good morning, Gloria. Good morning, Johnny, Aji. Good morning, Eliza. Good morning, Valerie. Lori. Good morning, Lori. All right. So I think that Cookie wins. I actually like both, but if I had to choose, I think it would be Cookie too. Alrighty, guys, we will be here tomorrow, same bat time, same bat channel. I'll look a little bit up on the village of Ephraim so we could talk a little bit about that tomorrow. I think it's important we get a little bit of background, especially when things start to pop out like they do. So we'll see you tomorrow. Have a fantabulous day. Love you guys.